Let's talk now about the potential economic impact of a yes vote. Not in Scotland, because there's been so much discussion about that, but what about the rest of the UK? Jonathan Davis is an economist and wealth manager. Morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
So, what or how, let's talk about the what so far. What businesses that are in England, Wales and Northern Ireland are going to be most affected? If there's a yes vote, what sort of lines are those businesses in?
Well, I think we have to take note of the fact that the UK, excluding Scotland, whatever it's called, and Scotland will still be in the EU. Whether or not we're in the euro, we'll all be in the EU. And of course,
is that a taken? Wouldn't it this hinge on whether Scotland gets into the EU?
I would be amazed if it weren't in the EU. Put it that way.
Okay, so you're basing, if you base it on the assumption that Scotland is, I mean, that might not happen overnight as well, we have to be aware of, but this is all, myth, isn't it? Okay.
And on that basis, the free movement of goods and services and people take precedence over everything. Thus, the question is posed, will there be a diminution in trade between the rest of the United Kingdom and Scotland because of independence if it happens? Well, I can't actually see it, because we can all trade with France and Germany and vice versa, just as if we were part of the same country. That is the point of the EU. I think there will be issues with regards the financial position of Scotland, and therefore the level of interest rates that Scotland will have, which will therefore potentially make exporting to Scotland more expensive or less expensive, because, for example, if in Scotland they were to raise interest rates, then that actually may make it more cheap to export into Scotland from outside of Scotland. So that's something to bear in mind.
What about things like services? So financial services, law, accountancy, because different countries have got different laws.
Well, indeed, very good point. So at the moment, although there is free movement of it's free trade in services and free movement of people across the EU, clearly there are different tax rules, different practices, different customs. So, for example, a wealth management business, I happen to be a wealth manager, could conceivably manage the finances of people in France, but of course it'd be extraordinarily difficult to do so from deepest, darkest Hertfordshire, for example, because in France they have different taxation, different customs, and indeed, how do you physically meet the people to advise? In accountancy, again, different tax. In law, do they go by the Roman laws or the common laws, as we do in England and Wales? So, although and in Scotland, they actually, their historical legal basis is, in fact, funnily enough, the Roman laws, even though more recently they have taken on our legal system. But in reality, when you talk to an accountant or a tax guy, they will say, but the situation in Scotland is different because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So yes, professional services may have issues in continuing to trade into Scotland. That, on the one hand, could be detrimental. On the other hand, I can see Scottish professional services providers actually having to beef themselves up. So therefore, on the other hand, maybe people from London will just have to take themselves up to Edinburgh and start living there and working there.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you very much. That's Jonathan Davies, an economist and wealth manager. It's 11:31.